What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to The Hook Shot. If you're new to these, my name is Lucas Cohen. His name, Rohan Borges. And today, we will be breaking down the UFC Vegas 86 main card. Not much to say. Let's just get right into it. We'll start with the main event, Joe Pyfer versus Jack Hermansson. This is a fight that I've been looking forward to. These past two main events, both middleweight main events. We had Imavov versus, why am I blanking? Roman Dolidze last week. Incredible performance by Imavov. And this week, we have a great fight between Joe Pyfer versus Jack Hermansson. Jack Hermansson, pretty much the gatekeeper of the middleweight division at this point, am I right? Yeah. Joe Pyfer, here he is, looking to steal his shine, get that top 10 spot. And I'll just give you a prediction right off the bat. I think he does it, man. I think he finds an early KO. Jack Hermansson, a lot of people are siding with the dog this week in Hermansson, and I just don't see it, man. If Hermansson had some sort of wrestling, I may consider it, but he doesn't have the takedowns to get the fight to the ground. When I see Hermansson, I mean, he's a volume striker. He's got a really good ground game, but just is it going to end up on the ground is a question here. I don't think so. I think we see an early Joe Pyfer KO within the first two rounds. If it goes into the later rounds, the fourth to fifth, we've never seen Pyfer there, so we really don't know. But I think I have to go with the brutal power of Joe Pyfer. I've been very impressed with him. The competition hasn't been the best, but he showed in his last fight against Razak Al-Hassan that he's not just a striker, not just a power puncher, but he can take you to the ground as well and maul you. And he did just that, and he finished him with the arm triangle choke. I have to go Joe Pyfer. Again, if it gets to the late rounds, might get a little fishy, but I'm gonna pick Pyfer in this matchup. Give me Pyfer KO round one. Why not? Rohan, what do you think?
Yeah, I gotta agree with you, man. I think obviously there's a lot of questions surrounding this fight because it is a big step up in competition for Joe Pyfer, who faced Abdul Razak Al-Hassan in his last fight. That is not a big name. That's not a notable win, in the middleweight division. However, I think he has stylistically all the tools to beat Jack Hermansson because Jack Hermansson, when you watch him, to your point, he's skilled. That's the thing. He's skilled. He's got, good techniques on the feet. He has great jiu-jitsu. He's got great grappling. But the problem is he can't really get you down to the point that he has an advantage in those areas. Like he's not using his wrestling offensively to get to these dominant grappling positions much. And we've seen in the past, he has a really high guard, is my worry about Jack Hermansson in every one of his fights. And it's the reason why, he's been finished and hurt in a lot of his fights. If you look back, the Cannonier fight, he was hurt. Dolidze obviously lost and got finished from the punches from back mount. This dude gets hurt in a lot of his fights. And I don't think you mentioned, but Joe Pyfer broke the punch power record at the UFC PI, broke Francis's punch power record. That just shows you how freaking hard this guy hits. And I just don't think that over the course of 25 minutes, Jack Hermansson's going to be able to avoid one of Pyfer's big shots. And again, people are going to say, oh, Jack Hermansson, big underdog. Look at the competition. He's faced all these big names. But Joe Pyfer is going to come in here. He's hungry. He showed in his last fight. He's versatile. He can take you down and finish you down there as well. So, yeah, I got to agree with you, man. I think it's a big step up, but he is more than ready for this one. So I've got Joe Pyfer by KO. I think he does it. I think he finishes him.
Yeah, there's two glaring weaknesses with Hermansson that you just touched on. One, there's the physical strength. Like, he just lacks physical strength.
Yeah, for the middleweight division, you got to be tough, man. You got to be able to withstand these guys that can take you down at will, and he's not able
There's no power. There's no strength to get the takedowns, and that's going to be a problem. But also, as you just said, the durability. One fight you didn't even mention was that Marvin Vettori fight. This is a guy that got dropped by Marvin fucking Vettori. I just don't really see a path to victory here for Hermansson other than surviving. Don't get me wrong. It could happen. He could survive. We've never seen Pyfer in the later rounds. But I just think Pyfer finds that chin, gets that KO. And also the age. Hermansson's turning 37 soon. 36 or 37 soon. He's getting up there.
He's turning 36 soon.
I can't imagine. He's been off for over a year now, man. We can't really trust Hermansson right now. I know you could have the argument that, yeah, we've seen him against good competition, so we can trust him. We can't trust Pyfer. But again, I think Hermansson's a little bit overrated. I don't really think he belongs in the top 10 of the UFC. And I feel like he hasn't really had that solidified win, that really good win. He beat Chris Curtis, looked good on the feet. There you go. He submitted Kelvin Gastelum at 185, anybody should do that. You saw what Sean Brady just did to Kelvin Gastelum at 170. I got to go Joe Pyfer here. I'm just rambling at this point. That is a prediction. Let's move on to the co-main event of this fight night. It's a good one. It's a banger. And I think somebody gets knocked out. It's Dan Ige versus Andre Fili. And another one. I like my pick here. I'm going Dan Ige. Surprised he's not a bigger favorite. Because if you just look at the matchup, Andre Fili, he tends to get hurt a lot in his fights. I mean, this is a guy that got dropped by Nathaniel Wood, a guy who used to fight at bantamweight. And now he's going to face off against Dan Ige, who has bombs in his hands. If you look at Dan Ige's career, he's really struggling against wrestlers, guys that are going out there willing to chain wrestle. And you know why they're doing that? I mean, they're good at wrestling, but they're scared of those hands. Look at Bryce Mitchell. I mean, he was shooting for his life. Dan Ige won that fight if you base it strictly off of damage. I think Andre Fili is going to give Ige the fight he wants, that striking fight. I think his durability isn't there. And it's a matchup between the moment winner in Ige versus the minute winner in Fili. I do think there's an Ige knockout. However, if it goes the distance, I think there will be too many of those big moments from Ige for the judges to ignore. So I'm going to go Dan Ige. I'll say knockout. Could be a decision, but just Fili's durability. Can't really trust it. Give me Dan Ige to win this fight regardless.
I agree. I'm not going to give you a prediction on how he gets it done, but Dan Ige, this is his fight to lose, guys. You mentioned it in the Bryce Mitchell fight. I thought like through 2 rounds or up until Bryce Mitchell had continued success on the ground, Ige was winning that fight in the stand-up. I mean, he had that big punch that opened up that huge cut on Bryce Mitchell's eye. So like you said, if you just based it off of that alone, the damage alone, he had a really good shot to win that fight. But if you just look at the guys this guy's fighting, man, Movsar Evloev, undefeated. Josh Emmett was a title contender or could have been a title contender if he didn't lose to Ilya. Chan Sung Jung, and to your point, they're taking him down because they're scared of the power that he has in those hands. And he's had a real shot in all of these fights. This is a guy that's never been finished in his entire career. He's 7 losses, but all by decision. I mean, this guy is as durable, as tough as it gets. And you mentioned it, Andre Fili, he gets hurt, he gets touched up a lot, and he's skilled. Again, he's skilled, he's got quick hands, he's got decent jiu-jitsu, but what is he going to do with that? He's not going to wrestle you to get you down. He doesn't have that kind of strength. And on the feet, I don't think Dan Ige has much to worry about in the power department. He's not really going to be worried enough to, take more of a cautious approach in the stand-up. He's going to let his hands go, and I could definitely see a knockout. But either way, like you said, I think he's going to have a lot of big moments in this fight. He's had them even in all of those losses against big names. He's had big moments against big names. So I think that streak continues, and I think he wins this fight easily. So that's my pick, Dan Ige.
Couldn't agree anymore. Let's move on to the next fight on this card. Gregory Rodriguez will be taking on Brad Tavares. Now, I see a ton of people on Twitter saying that this is a 50-50 fight, that Brad Tavares should not be plus 200. Man, I just disagree, honestly. I think Gregory Rodriguez has all the advantages in this fight, except for maybe the chin. But is Brad Tavares the one to knock out Gregory Rodriguez? Brad Tavares hasn't had a KO since like 2019. I mean, that fight that's scaring everybody away from Gregory Rodriguez is that Bruno Ferreira fight where he just got, tapped on the chin and put out cold. But Ferreira hits like an absolute truck. I mean, anybody in the UFC would get knocked out by that. An incredible shot from Ferreira. Rodriguez is just so multi-talented. He's got great power on the feet, but where he really thrives is that BJJ game. You saw that against Dennis Tolunin. Looked incredible, was able to take the back, get him to the ground. Just looked great there. I don't think he'll even be able to get Brad Tavares down to the ground. Maybe he'll clinch him up and take the back standing. Brad Tavares, incredible takedown defense. Some of the best in the entire UFC. Brad Tavares is on the decline, though, and that's what really sticks out. If you look at that fight against Chris Weidman, I mean, he just did not look good. Yes, he destroyed his legs. Yes, he won pretty convincingly, but that's against Chris Weidman. Chris Weidman, was having moments of success against this guy. That's a problem. Gregory Rodriguez wants to prove that he is a contender, and I am picking him to win this fight inside the distance. I'll say KO. Rohan, what do you think?
Yeah, I got to agree with you here, and I think Gregory Rodriguez might definitely find a finish in this fight, but I think when it comes down to it, he's got every advantage he needs to win this fight, and that's all it comes down to. Brad Tavares, if you laid it out perfectly, in his last fight against Chris Weidman, he won, but it's Chris Weidman coming off of a broken leg. There's no there's no moral victory there. Obviously it's a good win to have on your record, but he's 36 years old. He's getting up there in age. At this point in his career, he's damn near out of the door, out of the UFC, and I think to your point, 31 years old, Gregory Rodriguez is hitting his prime right now. He's trying to prove himself as a top 15, top 10 even caliber guy in the middleweight division, which is pretty shallow, to be honest. Like a few good wins and you could find yourself right in that mix, and so I think he's definitely going to try to make a statement in this fight. And man, if he takes it to the ground, I think he'd definitely have an easier time with Tavares. I think obviously Tavares has never been subbed, but he's never faced somebody like Rodriguez, who is just a savant on the ground. The problem is he doesn't use his grappling a lot. He prefers to go out there and brawl with you, stand and bang, and that gets him in trouble a lot of times, as we saw in the Ferreira fight. But man, he left his chin right up in the air, straight up in the air for it to be knocked out. I mean, it was the cleanest one ever, but obviously anybody would get caught by that shot. Brad Tavares doesn't have a lot of power in his hands. I think Rodriguez has nothing really to worry about in that department, and I just think he's the better fighter overall. He's younger, he's hungrier, and I got him to win this one. I don't know by decision. I could definitely see.
I'm saying he gets him out of there.
That's the thing. I could see a knockout, man. He's a wild man, RoboCop, man. Yeah, I'm going to say he gets him out of there. So I'll take Rodriguez by knockout as well.
So far, are we on the same page with absolutely everything?
I think so, but I mean, this card is one where it's like a lot of big favorites, and it's hard to pick against those guys when they've proven themselves time and time again. And Brad Tavares, man, I just can't, like you said, that Weidman fight, he won, but you can't get that out of your mind when you're picking him in this fight against RoboCop. This is somebody, like I said, man, this is a great spot for him. So yeah.
Let's move on to the next fight in the card. And hey, maybe this is where we'll start to disagree. Yeah. Because this is a fucking Michael Johnson fight. He'll be taking on Darius Flowers. I mean, guys, I don't even want to look at you guys, because when talking about Michael Johnson, I just cringe. Here's the thing with this guy. He is so talented. But the thing about Michael Johnson is that when he's supposed to lose, he wins. But when he's supposed to win, like easily, he finds a way to lose. I mean, this is the most inconsistent fighter in UFC history. He has a losing record in the UFC, as we were talking about before the podcast. He has a 21-19 record. If he loses this, he's 21-20. He'll probably get cut. I feel like this is probably the first time we'll actually see him win a fight that he's supposed to win. I mean, this guy's back is really, really against the wall. But again, I'm saying this, and it's Michael Johnson. I don't even want to think. I don't even want to talk about this fight. Rohan, just take the wheel here, please.
Yeah, it's so hard to pick it. So who's your pick? Tell me.
I'll tell you after.
All right. So he's going to make up his mind. This is a tough one to call because it's a toss-up. You laid it out perfectly. One of the only fighters with a losing record in the UFC, but it just seems like, why is that the case? Because you're fighting guys like Diego Ferreira, Clay Guida. These are guys like, Stevie Ray. Like, why
he's in the PFL and he fucking sucks. And I think he's retired now. He's like 30.
Darren Elkins. I mean, the list goes on. Why are you losing to these guys, Michael Johnson? You're so talented. And it doesn't make much sense. 37 years old. He honestly looks good for a 37-year-old at lightweight nonetheless. He's got fast hands. He's got quick feet. I don't see why he's losing these fights, but he tends to get caught. He tends to just lose his head in these certain moments and just get caught. And that's definitely going to be a danger here against Darius Flowers, who is a power puncher and a one-hit wonder, man. This guy, if it's not in round one, I really don't see him having much success in this fight, although it is Michael Johnson, so you never know. It's all about, does Michael Johnson get caught? And, man, you got to think if he loses this one, he's going to get cut. I think it's just about time for him. So I'm going to say Darius Flowers.
Whoa, he's going
I'm going to say
Flowers.
Darius Flowers just catches Michael Johnson. Bro, I'm just going to pick, the trend has given me nothing to pick otherwise. I'm saying I'm going to stick to the trend. These spots tend to be letdowns for him. So I'm going to just stick to that.
Fair. I totally get it. And before I tell you my prediction, guys, do not gamble on this fight. Unless you're the biggest degenerate known to mankind. Do not gamble on Michael Johnson versus Darius Flowers. Again, this should be Michael Johnson. He should win this fight. He's fighting Darius fucking Flowers. A guy with bad durability. A guy with zero cardio. He's first rounder bust, as you just mentioned. You saw in that his debut against Jake Matthews at 170. He gassed out in 5 fucking minutes.
Yeah.
But again, this is a Michael Johnson fight. He finds ways to lose. I'm going to predict Michael Johnson. His back is against the wall. I'm going to fucking trust him for once, but I'm not putting money on it. And I'm just going to, as a fan, I want him to win this fight. Let's move on to this next fight because that fight gives me a fucking headache. We're going to talk about, is it featured prelim fight? Yeah,
yes,
I think it's featured prelim time. The last fight we'll talk about today is Rodolfo Vieira versus Armen Petrosyan. This is the second time this fight has been scheduled. The first time they're supposed to fight back at UFC Sao Paulo. That was on November 4th. And Armen Petrosyan pulled out on fight day because apparently he got poisoned. I'm doing a whole story. It's coming out as a short video. It's about a minute long on our Instagram, TikTok. So that'll be out in a day or two. So just get ready. Go click the link in our bio. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok if you want to see that video. But specifically right now, we'll talk about this matchup. It's rebooked here, UFC Vegas 86. And this is a great fight. Incredible fight. There's a reason it's the main card opener. It's the definition of striker versus grappler. I feel like it doesn't get more clear of that kind of matchup in this fight. Rodolfo BJJ, not the best striking, but incredible, one of the best BJJ artists in the UFC. And then there's Armen Petrosyan. This guy, arguably zero ground game. I mean, I think it's getting better because he's training at a great gym in Team Alpha Male. But this guy's incredible on the feet. The volume's there, the timing's there, the precision's there. This guy's incredible. He beat Christian Leroy Duncan. That was, a few months over the summer, I believe. That's an incredible win. It's another striker, though. That's the issue here. It's such a hard fight to call because it's literally Vieira in round 1 by submission, which could 100% happen because Petrosyan loves giving up his backs, which you do not want to do. He loves giving up his back, which you don't want to do against Rodolfo Vieira. You just don't. This guy's incredible back takes, and he'll probably submit you if he gets you there. But after round 1, it's just Petrosyan all day, every day. And I'd love to think that, as I mentioned, Petrosyan, he's at Team Alpha Male. He's working on those positions probably all day, every day. That's his only weakness. And he's been training for this fighter for what? It's been probably since August. He's been training for this specific fight. It's now February. That's a 6-month training camp for one guy. You got to think that he's working on that, on just defending the back take. And you look at the Rodolfo Vieira side. You can't really train for somebody like Armen Petrosyan. I mean, you can get high-level kickboxers in there, but Petrosyan, I mean, his striking style, it's transitioned so well to MMA, obviously, besides, getting taken down and whatnot. Not the best takedown defense. But when this fight is on the feet, it's going to be Petrosyan all day, every day. I'm going to back him in this fight, but it's very, very tough to call. But I just think Petrosyan has more win conditions. Could be Vieira and sub in round 1. It's really hard to call. I'm bouncing back and forth in my mind. I'll just let you go, Rohan. Give me Petrosyan.
Rodolfo Vieira is my pick. He's going to get it done. You laid it out perfectly. I really can't add much. I mean, Petrosyan, you know what he's got to do. He's got to keep it standing. But Vieira, man, he's never faced anybody like the black belt hunter. This dude is a different level on the ground. That is all he knows. That's all he tries to do. And I think first round, he gets him down. I think you like you said, he loves to give up the back. If he gives up the back against somebody like this, it's game over.
Probably is. Yeah.
And I think that happens in round 1. This dude's 34 years old. He's still, pretty young for is this middleweight?
Yep.
Yes, middleweight division. That's not that bad, man. And I think Rodolfo Vieira is just a different level of grappler that Armen Petrosyan is yet to face. I think he gets it done in round 1. That's my pick.
Well, let me offer you some counterpoints here. Look at that Gregory Rodriguez fight. He did strike for most of the time, but Rodriguez, I believe, scored 2 takedowns. That's another really good BJJ artist, obviously not at the level as Vieira, but he was able to survive there. Maybe he's making these improvements also.
Yeah, like you said, the time to prepare for this, the fact that this fight has already been scheduled leads me to believe that he's only been preparing for the ground game because that's all he needs to worry about. But that said, man, this dude,
it's fair. I get what you're saying, but let me offer you something else. We saw Rodolfo Vieira versus Cody Brundage. I believe that was 6-7 months ago.
He subbed him.
But listen, you got to watch that fight. Round 1, he was losing on the feet. Didn't even shoot takedowns against Cody Brundage.
Of course he was losing on the feet.
He was losing to Cody Brundage on the feet.
He's not a good striker. I'm not saying he's going to strike. Why wasn't he get him down? Cody Brundage is not a guy you're taking down. Armen Petrosyan, there's one path to victory for him. Take his ass down, and he's going to do it in round 1. That's my pick.
I just think if you're losing on the feet so clearly to Cody Brundage, what is Petrosyan going to do to you? But will it even get there? It's a really tough fight to call. I'm going Petrosyan. He's going Rodolfo Vieira, folks. That's all we've got for you today. Sorry, boys, the outro cut out there. All I was going to say was, hey, subscribe, leave a comment. Let us know what you agree with. What do you disagree with? Let us know in the comments. Really looking forward to this card. Got a lot of bangers on it. It's going to be a pretty fun time. All of our links are in the description. Instagram, TikTok. If you want the full card breakdown for all the other fights and all of our bets as well, we've been killing it with these props, with these parlays. We're doing a 50% off deal probably for another month. You can go get our Discord. A lot of good stuff there. A lot of write-ups. A Zoom breakdown as well. A lot of people in there making a lot of money. It's 50% off now, so that's from $50 a month to $25 a month. Get it while you can. It's been Lucas. Ron's in the other room, but we're signing off.